Eric, hello?
Hey, but I think, Bruce, they're going to mute us because they can hear us.
Oh, okay. Hello? I can't. Okay, Eric, your microphone's. Okay, yeah, unmuted. Hello? Hello? Yeah, hello.
Well, it looks like we've passed 3:30. Sorry for the commissioner's tardiness. We were out on inspection, but looks like we have everyone here. So, Yvette, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Burling? Here. Commissioner Brzezowski? Here. Commissioner Mickey?
Here.
Chair Myers?
Here.
Commissioner Sowers?
Here.
Thank you.
So let's stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Let's see, extraordinary business will kick us off. We have an introduction of the new environmental programs manager and our new city forester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm so happy. This is the happiest you're gonna probably ever see me. So we have two new staff. Mary was briefly introduced in one of the prior meetings, but I wanted to get a little bit more of her background because she will be working on things that pertain to forest, parks, and beach, and then introduce our new city forester, but one at a time. So a little bit about Mary. Let's see, so Mary's our environmental programs manager. She started in Public Works Department's Environmental Services Division on May 16th. She attended Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and then graduated from UC Irvine, where she earned a Bachelor of Science degree in social ecology. She has 28 years of professional experience. Back in the 1990s, when she was a toddler, Mary worked here in the planning office, and she sat next to some guy named Chip Rarick. True story. She also worked with a Monterey environmental consulting firm, Denise Stuffing Associates. We'll be hearing more about them because they'll be doing our North Dunes habitat restoration monitoring. As an environmental planner there, Mary has gained expertise with stormwater requirements, regulatory permitting, working with the Coastal Commission, CEQA and NEPA processing. Her most recent position before here was Managing Director of Environmental Programs and Compliance with ICF International, where she oversaw diverse environmental and climate-oriented projects. Mary is a member of the Association of Environmental Professionals and American Planning Association. The kind of projects that she'll be doing that you'll be hearing about, she'll oversee the North Dunes Habitat Restoration Project and presenting every year or every other year or whatever, an update on that project. Mission Trail Nature Preserve, she is the point of contact with the Friends of Mission Trail Nature Preserve and overseeing, in general, what's going on in Mission Trails. She is a climate change initiatives person, so she is now overseeing the coastal engineering study. We have one of the first topics on the orders of business is one of those topics. In her spare time, Mary works on trash and recycling programs, environmental efficiency initiatives, and stormwater quality. She makes sure that the stormwater from the city that goes into Carmel River or out into the beach or out into the ocean is clean. Mary is married to Doug, who's a principal engineer with TAMSI, and they can send us money, which is cool. And they have adult twin daughters. They're both working in the science field. And Mary enjoys traveling, hiking, biking, and walking their golden retriever. So anyway, I wanted to welcome Mary and to introduce her formally to the commission.
Welcome, Mary.
What was interesting is back in, I think it was late January, the prior city forester and the prior environmental programs manager approached me on a Monday morning, on a rainy Monday morning. The first one resigned at 10:30, the second one resigned at 11. I am pleased, I'm so happy that we have filled a top-notch superstar people to fill those slots, that they're both here and up and running. Okay, let me introduce Justin Ono. Justin was born and raised here in the Monterey Peninsula. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in forestry from Humboldt State University with minors in social science and in... Oh, so you're right, soil science. Thank you, that's why you're here. And environmental ethics. He has solid experience working, about 15 years working with tree management companies, tree service contractors, and most notably under the tutelage of his father, Frank Ono, who is a well-known, highly respected Pacific Grove City forester for many years. Okay, let's talk about his licenses. All right, Justin is an ISA board-certified master arborist. That is the highest level of arborist that there is. He is a registered consulting arborist with the American Society of Consulting Arborists. He is an ISA municipal specialist. He is a registered tree risk assessment, qualified risk assessor with ISA. And he is a qualified pesticide application. Applicator. That says application. His memberships, professional memberships include the Society of American Foresters, the Society of Municipal Arborists, the American Society of Consulting Arborists, the International Society of Arboriculture, Pesticide Application Association, Soil Science Society of America, the Professional Soil Science Association of California, and the American Conifer Society. Let's see. Hold on. I should have prepared a little better than this. Justin is also proficient with fuel management, urban-wild interface, sensitive habitat management, resource conservation, landscaping and shrub care, tree impacts from development and construction projects, plant health care, and tree work safety programs. Back in February, when our prior forester left and we got pounded by storms in March, we called Justin to come in to fill in part-time as our consulting arborist. He hit the ground running. He was incredibly helpful. He was just fantastic. We couldn't get enough of him. He was busy with other clients as well. So we're thrilled to have him from a part-time consultant to a full-time city employee. Justin lives in Monterey with his wife, Leah, their 16-month-old son, Alder. I did this joke at the workshop. So Justin and his wife named their son Alder after the tree, which is more dedication. I did not name my daughter Storm Drain or anything. You know? I knew better than that. And they have a dog named Kerwin. And Justin enjoys hiking, and he's a big baseball fan. We won't say what team this year. So please welcome Justin to our city family. And you'll see plenty of Justin on the Urban Forest Master Plan, all the tree permits. We'll be sitting here every month, development application, so you'll see him all the time. But I wanted to introduce you both so you're aware that people that are here helping on the forest parks of each.
Thanks. Commissioners, take one last look at Bob. He said this is the happiest day of his life, so.
Let's go downhill next.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, we'll move on to public appearances. Members of the public are entitled to speak on matters of municipal concern, not on the agenda during public appearances. Each person's comments shall be limited to 3 minutes or as otherwise established by the commission. Matters not appearing on commission's agenda will not receive action at this meeting, but may be referred to staff for a future meeting. Persons are not required to give their names, but it is helpful for speakers to state their names so that they may be identified in the minutes of the meeting. So with that in mind, I'm going to go to chambers first, because we actually have a packed group. Pretty exciting. Wow, nervous. So many faces. Anyone from chambers care to make a public appearance? Boy, I just gave you guys a big lead in and nobody. Oh, wait, hold on. We've got someone coming on up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Melanie Billig, resident of Carmel. And I just wanted to comment on some concerns that I've had for about the last year or so. And that is, it covers the whole city, but especially in the quadrant that I live in, which is the Golden Rectangle. We have been losing trees at an astronomical rate, and I'm not exaggerating. When I bought my property, when my husband and I bought our property, we had a canopy. Now all we have are vacuous areas in the sky. There are hardly any trees left. And more, as we walk, which we do every day, we take 2 walks every day, all I'm seeing are these holes in the sky and stumps. And I'm very, very concerned about the kind of people that are coming to this community and not liking the trees, not understanding that if you come to Carmel, you're living in an urban forest. If you don't want a forest, then move to Fresno or someplace else. But that's what this town is about. And we're losing it very, very rapidly in all areas of town. So, I mean, I wake up to chainsaws all the time, and it's not fun. And I just want to make that really clear to all of you on the commission that this is not the way Carmel has been as long as I've lived here, which is over 35 years. So I plead with you to start taking this really in a very, very serious, concerted effort to mitigate what is going on in this town. I know we've got lots of different kind of people who've moved here from very different places that don't even have trees. And when they come here, if they don't like the trees or consider them to be unsafe or whatnot, we don't bow to that. We just simply tell them, these are the rules of Carmel. This is our tradition. And so I plead with you to start taking a harder stance toward tree removals and doing something to edify the public about this very treasured resource that we have in Carmel, which is our forest. Thanks a million.
Thank you, Melanie. Appreciate it. Anyone else from chambers care to make a public appearance? Doesn't look like it. So I do see we've got at least one hand up online, and so we'll take that to Maria. Hello, Maria.
Good afternoon. I'm Maria Sutherland with Friends of Carmel Forest. And Ramey asked me to make a comment. We noticed that a ginkgo on 7th, 2 trees southwest of Dolores, was in need of water and reported it on 7/29. I just got notification that it will be looked at tomorrow. That's 12 days, and I can tell you the tree has gotten worse. So I know we're in the middle of switching over, but I would like to ask if there is some sort of staff that's available to address tree issues immediately.
Okay. Is there anything else, Maria?
That's it.
Thank you very much. And do we have anyone else online joining us that would like to make a public appearance? It doesn't. Yvette, do you see anybody? Doesn't appear.
You have to come up to the front, please.
It's on the agenda. I want to talk about the removal of a tree on my property. Now, I don't know if that comes now or that.
That'll come when we actually address it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, great, no worries. All right, well, with that in mind, I will go ahead and close public appearances and then turn it over to our fine director for announcements.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have 5 announcements today. Number 1, first we wanted to introduce, officially recognize our steering committee members that's part of the Urban Forest Master Plan project. This is item number 8 in the agenda, is talk about the Urban Forest Master Plan, the status, talk about community survey, et cetera. But at the June meeting, we didn't have a July meeting, but back in the June meeting, the commission selected 5 people. We did not have we didn't officially, and we intentionally did not name those people until they were notified. So they have been notified. Some of them appeared at the workshop last month. So I also wanted to name them and thank them. In no particular order, we have Donna Jett, Linda Smith, Maria Sutherland, just spoke, Bill Teomina, and Peter Quintanilla. So I wanted to welcome them.
Absolutely.
Okay, next I have is items for the Forest and Beach packet. Anyone, the commission, the steering committee members, and the public at large, by all means, anyone can request an item on the agenda. That's great. We would ask that notify Justin or Yvette or Justin or I of this item, and if it's, we've been reaching out to JC as the chair. The chair makes the final decision on what goes on the agenda, what doesn't go on the agenda. Okay, but it's open shop. If anyone has an item, by all means, offer it, and we'll check with JC to make sure it's all good to go. Number 3, I wanted to make it clear that for the commissioners and the steering committee, please do not contact our consultants or our contractors directly. We've had a couple situations like that. It caused grief. The contracts that we have, their legal documents, the scope of work and the fees and schedules, all pinned down. The city staff is here to manage our consultants, make sure to keep them on track. If there's a concern by anybody or need information or whatever, by all means contact, send information to Yvette and she'll route it to the right person. But we're asking no one to directly contact our consultants and contractors. It's causing more grief than it's doing any good. Thank you. Number 4, Brown Act training on July 17th. City Clerk Nova Romero sent out an email to the Forest and Beach commissioners and the steering committee members with a link and a passcode to a training video regarding the Brown Act. It's a 70-minute video. I attended it. I strongly encourage all to attend that training. If you didn't get that email from July 17th, let us know and we'll have it resent. Last but not least, under the public hearing items, we have 4 public hearing today. You might have noticed we have a new section of that report called environmental evaluation. This is something we haven't been doing in the past. However, CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, is state law, and it requires decisions of legislative bodies to consider environmental impacts. Okay? Now that we have an expert in CEQA, Mary Bilsey, who we just introduced, now we have the expertise to become a little bit more accurate in how we're presenting our agenda reports. Now, fortunately, a huge share of public hearings of the past, and including today, there are no environmental impacts under CEQA. They're either exempt or they're not even considered projects under CEQA. Nonetheless, we're still required to put in a line for the legislative body, which is the Forest and Beach Commission, to consider environmental impacts, even though almost all the time they're not. There could be. When we get into more larger projects, there might be cases where we do have environmental impacts. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. So you'll be seeing that in today's public hearings, and in the future, you'll be seeing that more and more as we go forward. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Just for clarification on the Brown Act training, it's not a requirement, or was it a requirement?
It's a requirement. You should do it. You should do it.
So, and as a refresher,
Or an annual requirement, or
Whenever NOVA instructs us to watch something or to participate in something, then yes, it's highly recommended. And it's
Well,
very helpful.
yeah, the Brown Act is the law we
Yes.
must follow, and it was a pretty detailed
Yes.
training session, and myself included, I think there's a little bit of improvement that we could all.
I think it'll explain a little bit more of why we ask to do certain things a certain way.
Right.
It will be a little bit more enlightening to each of you.
so, but is it an anonymous attendance, or are you
Yeah.
actually, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
So it's not actually tracking.
The honor system.
Got it, thanks. And when you mentioned, one last question, you mentioned in terms of contacting consultants and contractors, I imagine there's going to be time where we're interacting with them. I don't know, as the steering committee is going about the process, and at that point, are we not allowed to speak with them, or?
That's a good point. Okay, so let's use the example of Davie Resource Group, who's online and will be presenting in a little bit. While they're presenting and, presenting the project or asking, when there's a conversation, by all means, it's a conversation, ask questions. I'm referring to an email directly from a commissioner or somebody directly to them. On one case, we weren't even aware until the consultant said, what do we do with this?
Got it.
Okay, so it just kind of causes some aggravation. So
Okay, thanks.
certainly it doesn't change when they're here.
Just wanted the clarification. I imagine we're going to have interaction. Okay, no other announcements? Any announcements? Nothing from you? Okay. Fair enough. We'll move on from announcements to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent action. Members of the commission or the public may ask that any items be considered individually for purposes of commission discussion and/or for public comment. Unless that is done, one motion may be used to adopt all recommended actions. We have two pieces here: the approval of the June 8, 2023 meeting minutes and the approval of the July 20, 2023 special meeting minutes.
I'll give a motion to approve them.
I'll second.
Yvette?
Commissioner Burling?
Yes.
Commissioner Brzezowski?
Yes.
Commissioner Mickey?
Yes.
Chair Myers?
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is passed.
Okay. All right, now we get to the fun stuff. We're going to open up public hearings, and the first hearing that we're going to hear about, is the approval or denial of the pruning of limbs of a significant oak tree on a neighboring property to construct a second-story addition at the property located at Ocean Avenue 4 northeast of Guadalupe Street. And Justin?
Mr. Chair, we're going to have Tom Ford will be
Tom, you're good?
introducing this and then turn it over to Justin.
Got it. Perfect.
Good afternoon, thank you. Bit of the background on this agenda item. In 2021, there was a permit to attachment 1 that authorized the pruning of branches over the roof of no more than 4 inches in diameter over the applicant's house. There was also authorization to remove 1 tree, but regarding the pruning, several of the limbs under 4 inches were subsequently removed. However, what we could gather is that it appeared as though 2 limbs between about 4 and 5 inches were also pruned without authorization. But moving forward to the current permit, which is attachment 2, that is to prune. I'll bring it up in just a moment. Yeah, we have, we'll put up these photos in just a moment. But the current application is to prune several additional limbs on that same tree, which is tree number 4, for purposes of constructing a second-story addition to the applicant's house. Tree number 4 was deemed as the category of significant. It's a multi-oak stem tree owned and located on the neighboring property to the west. The branches will conflict with the proposed construction design, which is attachment 4. And we'll get the photos pulled up in just a moment. But in the meantime, I wanted to toss it over to, I'm very proud to hand it over to our new city forester, Justin Ono.
Hi, thanks, Tom. So, yes, the tree in question is located on the neighbor's property. It's a 3-stem multi-pronged oak, and the proposed new development will remove approximately 3 to 4 large 8+ inch diameter branches. And when we get this booted up, I'll be able to show everyone. Wait, did we get? Sorry, one second. Do you guys have any questions?
So I had a question, just in the context of the overview, it sounded like, do we know that the trees that were previously trimmed without authorization were at 4 and 5 inches, so they essentially were cut out of permit? Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a picture in the presentation with a tape measure on the limb.
Well,
So
we don't know who did it, do we?
No.
These people, residents there.
yeah, were they the current owners? How long have they owned the property, and when approximately those limbs would have been taken out?
It's the same name.
If I may, it was the same owner, and it was the same tree company who had done the authorized work.
Oh, the other trimming, but they didn't know to not cut anything over 4 to 5 inches, and they went ahead and did it anyway?
Presumably, they did know. It's stated on our application that limbs over 4 inches should not be pruned. They were close, so it's not like we're talking about extremely large diameter limbs.
Any other questions for the forester and what he's presented? No? Or are you putting up some pictures?
We're gonna put the pictures.
We're gonna wait for that. Okay. And is the applicant present? Do we know? No? You're the applicant? Okay.
The pictures are in the same.
We're going to wait for some pretty pictures, but you can come up to the podium if you like. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Regarding an unauthorized pruning, basically it's been done by Mr. Brian Jacobson, and at that time the forester was Sarah Davis. They were communicating. I wasn't there, and he pruned it, and then neighbor complained about it. Mr. Brian Jacobson sent the whole, description and all the picture and everything. He was explaining that, everything is okay. And at that time, from the commission or from the forester, we haven't heard anything that, I did anything wrong. And basically, from my understanding, Mr. Jacobson told me basically that everything been solved. He told me in 21 when he got the, basically complaint. He was here. I wasn't there. I wasn't here, but he was here, and they said, he told me that no one brought this issue up in 21.
Well, if I may, and thank you for that explanation, because there's questions from the commission. Would you like to address your application?
Sure.
Okay.
Basically, everything started before I purchased this home. Prior putting the offer on this home, I contact city, and then Miss Marnie Waffle, who is my planner, which she told me she's going to be here today. She said there is something missing, because I asked them, can I build a second story? And she said there is some piece of paper is missing because the seller didn't do any report or anything. And she ran the historical evaluation with my, I paid that, seller didn't pay. And they said that it's okay because I have other, in our block, there is other 5 houses that are second story. And she said she doesn't see any objection, basically. Basically, Cass' property and my property at this time was owned by one person. And I'm assuming that, over 18 years that, she was the owner, she didn't care about the tree growing up through, to other property. Otherwise, I wouldn't, face this problem now. Then, from 2001 that I purchased, basically my, my intention was to build a second story. I have 2 kids, and this house is very small. They told me I can build almost, like around, 1,200 square feet. And the shape of the lot is 25 by 100. It's so, even, we tried the first story, but it didn't come, in a good, design. And, basically I have to pass through the kitchen to go to the bedroom. And that's why, I was thinking to try my chance and ask you guys to let me cut the tree, then I can build a second bedroom and bathroom upstairs.
Okay, thanks. The commission might have some questions, or does anyone from the commission have any questions about the applicant's presentation?
I just have a question. Have you applied to the planning committee? Do you have permits to build the second story? Like, have you gone through the planning
Not
process
yet.
to
I
approve?
was hoping that Marnie was, here because she told me.
She's online.
Oh, okay. No, I don't have a permit yet because, we are just, want to, first, basically I need to get a permit to cut that branches. From my understanding, then it's going to be the planning commission hearing.
Are there any other questions from the commission? No?
And I believe Mr. Brian Jacobson told, he told me anything that, has been done, and, if you guys are concerned, he has the whole, explanation. Basically, he's fully in charge, and he's going to answer to your question.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to this? If you would, please come up to the podium. Looks like there's a couple different people, so you had your hand up first. There you go. Yeah.
Thank you for hearing me. My name's Tim Cass. I'm one of the owners of the property with the tree on it. And some of the facts were, in my opinion, incorrect. She showed up one morning unannounced to anybody, cut quite a few limbs, and 2 limbs that were larger than 4 inches. Sarah Davis came out, cited her. The police came out and wrote her a citation, which she had to deal with in court. So I don't know if Mr. Jacobson was responsible for cutting the 5-inch limbs or not, but the problem is the canopy from existing has already been reduced dramatically because of the trimming. So it's gone probably 25% already. And Sarah said that any trimming of limbs over 4 inches could cause damage to the tree. In the proposal, to cut large 8-inch limbs would reduce that canopy by 40, 50%. Half of the tree would have to go away. And that's my concern. So I just wanted to state the facts as I see it, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I have a question do you think, how do you feel about her being able to have the house she would like to have? Is the tree more important, or?
Well, her last proposal was to put the addition in her backyard. So it's not always been a second story. And she pulled that and has decided to go to a second story for whatever reason.
Well, she explained that. She said you had to go through the kitchen to get to the bedrooms.
No, she could have, she had plans in. You can see the plans that were submitted before she pulled them and put new plans in. So she's entitled to do whatever she wants. I just want to make sure that the tree doesn't die. It's a beautiful oak tree that's been there for probably 150 years, or I don't know, maybe Justin would know better, but it's been there for a long time.
Okay, any other questions for this gentleman? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir? Yep.
Hi, I'm Francisco Lansra. I'm a neighbor from San Carlos. And actually, I wanted to ask you, Justin, if it's related to what Mr. Cass already said, that what percentage of the tree is going to be cut? I mean, because generally when you go above 25% from the original canopy, I mean, the recommendation is not to do anything more. And this, what percentage would it reflect? I mean, and sometimes the wounds are so large that the tree cannot recover. So, I mean, basically my question is also regarding the health of the current tree.
Yeah, currently the tree's healthy, and those large cuts would, with the additional cuts that looked fairly new, that would constitute 30 to 35% of the tree, and industry standard is no more than 25% of the tree in a pruning event.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there's no one else, is there anyone online that wanted to make a public comment about this?
Mr. Chair, would the commission want to hear from Marnie Waffle, the planner, about the status of the application for?
Absolutely, if she's prepared.
Marnie, are you on?
She's there. Hello, Marnie.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Ms. Mardani did submit a planning application. Initially, it was for a 2-story home. As we were going through the review process, she decided to change the design to a 1-story home. That design did go to the Planning Commission for a concept review, and it was accepted with some conditions. And while she was addressing those conditions that the Planning Commission had adopted, she decided that she would prefer to go back to the 2-story design of the home. So she has withdrawn her initial application and submitted a new application for the 2-story design. And so we are starting that review process kind of over again. So we'll have to go back to the Planning Commission for another concept review once we deem that application complete. However, if the commission finds that the additional limbs cannot be removed, she will need to kind of reassess her design and then modify her planning application accordingly. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone from the commission with questions? Yep, please.
Marnie, hello, this is Kelly. I have a question. I'd just like to ask you, if the committee defers any action on the tree today, that doesn't affect your review of the 2nd story, correct?
Correct. So normally what we would do is we would review the application and we would take it to the Planning Commission for the concept review. And if the Planning Commission accepts the concept, we would say, okay, before you come back for final, now you must go to the Forest and Beach Commission and get their approval for any limb removal.
Thank you, that's helpful. We find ourselves, this isn't the first time we found ourselves in this position, so it's actually nice to have you here today to check on this, because I think we find ourselves often in the position of kind of in between, building permits and tree-related pruning or removal. And so as long as you can review her plans independent of any, if there's a deferral here, that's very helpful to us. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Marnie? No? And is there anyone else that I don't see any other hands, so then I'm going to close the public comment part. I'm going to bring it back to the commission for discussion. I just encourage everyone on the commission to allow all the commissioners to have some sort of input before we put any motions forward. just so things don't get missed. And with that, does anyone want to lead this off?
So I just had a quick question. So I mean, or not a question, but a follow-up from Marnie's statement. Is it sounds like if we make no decision to defer, that if we were potentially to deny the tree trimming, then that would potentially impact the planning of a second story, potentially, because positioning second story around that tree or in the context of the tree. The plans, as we understood them today, is that tree would need to be trimmed to accommodate the second story. And if that plan goes through and Marty comes back with an approved plan for that second story, then if we hadn't made any decision, our decision would be, well, then they'd have to go back to planning again to adjust the positioning of the second story if we denied the trimming. So I'm trying to understand the process, because if we don't make a decision today, they go back to planning for the second story that assumes that those tree limbs would be cut, then she would have to go back to planning again to move the positioning of the second story if we were to deny the thing. So maybe we need to come up with a decision today, and then that gives at least an initial understanding of what she's going to need to deal with the planning department. So does that sound reasonable?
If I can interrupt, if you can get closer to the microphone,
sorry.
because they can't hear you online.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'll go ahead. I'm sorry. I mean, I think to your point, Brian, that I think it's important to actually communicate the thoughts on the tree itself, so that the planning isn't wasted, right? For sure. And I think when we've been in kind of in between on some things in the past, I think it's been because it's not as significant of an impact, perhaps of a tree or a limb per se, where this potentially might be considered otherwise. So, and I'll just continue on. You know, from my perspective, these lots, these split lot, really only had one nice tree on it. And I'd hate to see anything happen to that tree, anything further. I don't see justification at this point to take any additional limbs off of that tree. So that's how I feel about it.
I'm totally at the opposite side, because to me, if you have a piece of property and you can't build a house that suits your family because of some tree, I just don't see the comparison. Certainly, another tree could be planted. We could either require that she plant an oak tree, or they could just plant, and we don't know that oak tree is going to die. So I can't imagine saying you can't build the house that would work for your family because of a tree.
I think it would be, that's why I was asking about the permit. I appreciate that the view of this commission on the tree is significant as it pertains to her remodel, but it would be helpful to know if planning would approve what she has in mind. One question I have, this kind of comes back to you, Justin, is, you know, when you talk about canopy, is there an approach that you can remove canopy in stages as opposed to all at once? So for example, I know there's been a lot of discussion about the original pruning, right? The tree seems, I'm not an arborist, but the tree seemed very healthy when we were there today, and it looks like the status, there wasn't anything written that the tree has been in decline since the initial pruning. I know the branches were smaller, but could you do something in stages or sequentially? Would that help if there was a need to remove that much canopy? 6 months apart, 8 months apart? I mean, I'm just trying to come up with a solution that works for everybody.
If it wasn't this very specific type of pruning, like if you were thinning it out for light or something, but since it's such a stark sheer cut, there's not a lot of difference you can make. I mean, you could, I don't know if cutting each branch 1 year at a time to build this house in 5 to 10 years, just because to accommodate the 11-foot addition to the top, you really just kind of have to clear those branches, and there's no real pruning way to get around that. It's just kind of, that's going to be the impact on the tree.
Well, but it's not a guarantee the tree will die with this trimming, correct?
But
it is not.
It is against best management practices, and it'll probably hurt it. I can't guarantee it'll die. It's hard to, guarantee those things.
We actually have a precedent for this, though, and that was you were there, JC, maybe the only other one. On Carpenter, there were 2 big branches from an oak tree, and the only place this person could build a bedroom was taking one of those branches off. And we did agree that one branch could be taken off, or 2 if necessary, but if that tree died, which was on the other person's property, then that person needed to pay a certain fee, and I think it was $5,000. Do you remember, Bob?
I don't remember, but I remember this case. I don't remember the dollars.
To allow for a new large tree to be planted.
I guess my take on this too as well is that I think looking at the positioning for number one, it's not the proposed builders or property owners' tree, number one, because it's just the neighbor's tree that's extending over onto that property.
Right.
And they were still in the planning phases of the build, and it seemed that there would be enough room in planning to build a second story with some accommodation to the tree.
Perhaps.
And I'm just, and again, so I'm not clear on the kitchen versus the bedroom scenario, but I know there's quite a bit of architectural opportunity to accommodate the tree and still achieve a second story space on that property. I don't know that for a fact, but I would question whether that's not a possibility. And so we're not necessarily saying that they couldn't build a second story. It's just that the issue is, do we accommodate the tree or not?
Justin, back in 2021, and I'm looking at this permit, you're ascertaining about 30% of the canopy was removed at that time. I can't remember what the homeowner said that it's their tree. Okay. That's what it looked like from...
That's what it looked like, yeah.
Which was just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't actually, I mean, I'm looking at this application, it doesn't say anything about what they actually want to remove. And there are no story poles, so we don't really actually have any idea. I mean, by approving this, what will we be approving? Oh, like, just feel free to prune away until you see fit? I mean, we couldn't...
Yeah, we take the elevations from the plans, and we kind of have to judge it from there, because I'm pretty good at eyeballing 11 feet, but not perfect, not the same as story poles.
Got it.
Justin, can I ask you again, what diameter are you thinking that the other branches that they would need to cut would be? Did you have a sense of that?
At least a 6-inch branch and an 8-inch branch, if not 2 to 3 6 or 8-inch branches.
Okay.
So larger branches, almost stems.
And did I understand from the homeowner that this is a 25-foot by 100-foot lot?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 250 square foot, or 2,500 square foot, which is significantly smaller than a standard size lot here in Carmel. I understand the rights of both sides. The homeowner, that's her airspace, and it doesn't sound like there's a lot of space on that land. And I also understand that this is the neighbor's tree. I know that we'd like to have a decision today, but I sort of feel as though what some of the other commissioners have said, that I don't want to just start to willy-nilly cut what we think may need to be cut. Do we wait to get plans and get a more precise vision of what specifically needs to be cut? That to me seems like the most fair outcome to both parties. So I'm not sure that we can get to a decision.
Well, I'm going to give it one more try, bringing it back around. So the homeowner purchased this home in 2001, right? And so they've lived in this property for 20 plus years with that tree. They bought the house with that tree right there. It's
which homeowner?
The applicant, right?
Okay.
The tree was there. The tree was present. Again, on the lots between the two, there are very few trees. Carmel is a town. of trees. And some of the most fun things I see about construction in our town is working their way around the trees, trying to find something that accommodates. I mean, that's the quaintness of what this village is. We heard during public appearances, we heard a homeowner over in the Golden Triangle that is lamenting about the fact that trees are being cut down left and right, and the reality of it is that's outside of our purview, right? For me, I look at that lot and also looked at the health of the tree, and it's a special tree.
Yes.
And if we were to lead the applicant on with the idea that another 25 or 30% of that canopy could be removed, that's almost half of it, or maybe it is half. So, I don't know. For me, I would put a motion forward to deny the pruning of this significant oak tree as per the recommendation of our forester.
I'll second that.
Okay, then Yvette, if we could have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Burling?
No.
Commissioner Brzezowski?
No.
Commissioner Mickey?
No.
Chair Myers?
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers?
Yes.
The motion is not passed.
Right, the motion fails, so you might want to make another motion.
Yeah, well, I guess to leave it up
Is it-
to someone
Is
else.
it, my recommendation would be that we defer until there's approved first stage of plans. I fully support accommodating the tree as much and as best as possible, but I would hate to deny a property owner the right to expand their home for their children if that's the way they'd like to do it. My motion, I don't know if that is a deferment. I mean, I'm suggesting that we defer this until there's.
You could, we could make a motion to defer this, or to continue this item to a date uncertain, once it's more established, when the planning documents progress, then to come back at that time.
Okay.
So,
That would be the motion. So I would make a motion to defer.
Whatever I said.
Yeah, to defer, to continue this item
To a date uncertain.
to a date uncertain until there's more information on planning
Okay.
regarding the remodeling of the home.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Burling?
Yes.
Commissioner Brzezowski?
Yes.
Commissioner Mickey?
Yes.
Chair Myers?
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers?
Yep. Yes.
Thank you. That motion has passed.
Yep.
Okay, continuing on with public hearings, we've got our next one. Is Tom, are you?
No, this one's Justin.
Okay, this one's Justin. There you go. This is the approval or the denial of the removal of one Coast live oak for construction purposes at Santa Rita Street, 4 southeast of Ocean Avenue. Okay. Well, for the record, thank you. Oh, thanks.
It is southeast.
It is southeast.
Look at southeast.
We were there.
Yeah.
Southeast or southwest?
Yeah, it's the next one south.
It's all right.
Southeast.
It's okay.
Do we have the right place?
We have the right place. Okay.
Okay, fair enough.
So commissioners, I'm presenting the project for Mr. Bruce Gaia. His architect submitted us plans and a tree removal application to remove one 14-inch coast live oak tree to accommodate a second-story deck and for construction. The tree's in fair condition and it's fairly close to the structure. Can you show the pictures?
What's happening?
Sorry? Oh, we're taking it to the picture.
There's the tree. There's a close, better picture.
There you
There's
go.
the tree with significant lean, and it's very close to the building. The proposed construction will be, the footprint will be within the tree, so there's nowhere else for it to go. And at the current time, the lot has over the recommended density for its trees. The recommendation is to approve the removal of the tree, and the permit be valid with an approved design study and an issued building permit.
Anybody from the commission have any questions about what the foresters presented? Doesn't look like it. Would the applicant care to come up?
Well, first of all, I've owned that house since 2001, and I've lived here full-time since 2014, and it is represents a major part of, oh, I should also say that I am disabled now, and so retired, and I get migraine headaches, and I'm in fact have one right now, but not too bad. The house represents a major part of the savings, which I need to live for the rest of my life here, hopefully. But in the event that I can no longer live here, the house will be I'll be able to sell that and fund the rest of my my retirement, or I'll have my kids sell it, something like that. I want to invest in this house and improve it and improve its value while I can. And I also want to construct an ADU. One of the things is that my son, who is 32 years old and is languishing in the frozen wastes of around Minneapolis and in financial difficulties, I would hope that he would come and live with me, perhaps. And so I would like to have him come there and live with me. And also, since I live alone, it would be quite nice to do that. And so, to construct this ADU, I want to, have a place right there where I can see, and that tree is right in the way. And so, and I understand, you said it was in fair condition. I don't know exactly the things, that's up to you, the technical stuff, but well, that's my proposal, and that's what I'd like to do. So thank you.
Does anyone from the commission have any questions for the applicant? Nope, doesn't look like it. Is there anyone from the public that would care to make a comment about this particular application? That was tough to say. Particular application. There it is. Doesn't look like anybody online. That might. Nobody online. So then I'll go ahead and close the public comment and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Who would like to lead it off?
I have one comment to you, and that is, I grew up in the house next door to yours, lived there from 1943 to 1958 before Kurt Grazing and his wife made it beautiful. It was plain Jane in those days. But it seems to me that the recommendation is adequate in this case.
Are you on?
Sorry about that. I would agree with what our forester, Justin Odo, has suggested.
Either of you? Well, would someone like to go ahead and put a motion forward then? Why not? You can.
So I recommend that we approve the removal of that particular coast oak tree, period.
And I'll second the motion.
Mr. Chair, before we take a roll call, can I ask for clarification?
Yeah.
Because
That's what I thought.
your recommendation includes that the permit be valid upon approved design study and a building permit.
Okay.
Whereas the motion only said approve the removal of it as if it was now.
So it got seconded. What do we need to?
I'm not allowed to do a friendly amendment, but you guys can.
Right, so we make a friendly amendment to that?
Yeah.
Okay, would someone else like to make the friendly amendment?
I'll make the friendly amendment
Thank
that
you.
the motion be amended to approve the removal of one coast live oak at the applicant's expense, and that the permit will only be issued and valid with an approved design study and issued building permit.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Burling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brzezowski,
Yes.
Commissioner Mickey,
Yes.
Chair Myers,
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers.
Yes.
Thank you, the motion is passed.
Okay, well, gaining a little momentum here. We've got the next up in our public hearings is the approval or denial of the removal of 2 coast live oak trees for reconstruction purposes at the southwest corner of Santa Fe Street and Mountain View Avenue. I believe we have one of our commissioners needs to recuse herself.
Can I stay or do I need to wait?
Yeah.
I believe she needs to state the reason of recusal.
You need to state your
because
I live within 500 feet
There you
of
go.
this property.
Okay. We'll call you back in. Okay. Great, thanks. And are you taking this?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, commissioners, the next order of business is to look at a tree removal permit 23217 submitted by Bruce and Patricia Westfall by their architect Eric Beckstrom. The tree permit is to remove 2 coast live oak trees to accommodate the construction of a new garage. Their previous garage was destroyed by a tree during the March storms, and they got a building permit to demolish that garage, and it's now gone. So this permit is to remove the trees to build a new, somewhat larger garage. The applicant also expressed concerns about the health and safety of the trees, and there is a rope tying the 2 trees together. The trees were damaged by the falling pine during the storms. Currently, there's been no submitted design study or building permit application. So, barring the planning process, just purely on the merits of the trees, they're in fair condition, and it is my recommendation that the tree removal be denied until without a design study or building permit.
Any questions for Forrester about what he's just presented?
What is this rope doing between is it holding the trees together?
I don't know, and I don't believe it is.
Not necessarily.
I don't think so.
Justin, you mentioned that the applicant had stated safety. I don't see that anywhere in the application.
It was on the permit.
It's on the, okay, am I looking at I think I'm looking at the permit. It says, reason for removal, a large nearby pine fell exposed of the 2 oaks, which are leaning toward the house with ropes holding them together.
Yeah, so that's their concern, but then it also it's not like a hazard permit, it is a permit for the purposes of construction. So that's kind of chicken and egg kind of thing also. So, and if it's solely on the risk the trees present, that's where the denial is coming from.
Got it. I'm just looking for clarification around them expressing safety issues.
It was in the permit, so I wanted to put that in there.
Okay. Anybody else? No. I believe the applicant looked like, are they online?
Yes. I'm online.
Yes.
Bruce Westfall.
Eric Beckstrom.
Okay, hang on oh, there we go. Now we got you. Perfect.
You see me? This is my hand.
Mm-hmm.
There you are. We got you.
Great.
All right, please go ahead.
Well, it's actually there's 2 issues. One, we can't really design the new garage because the tree would be in the way of that. That's one issue. The second issue is there's a rope holding one tree off of the house, and we've already had 2 trees fall on the property, one demolished the existing garage. The second tree demolished a fence. The tree that demolished the garage is about 30 feet, base of which is about 30 feet from the existing tree. The branches of the tree overhang the garage. And I think our insurance company has not recognized it yet, but I think we have a duty to protect the house and property in addition to ourselves. And if that tree falls, could be dead because it's right over our bedroom. It's a significant tree. It's on our property. What do we do then? Does the city have responsibility if they would deny the permit if something happens to us? Hello.
This is not a Q&A.
I'm sorry. Are you finished with?
I think I'm finished.
Okay. And I believe then you had someone else that was planning to speak as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
Eric
All right.
is working with us on, and we really can't submit.
Sorry. One moment, please. Sorry. Yvette, how much time do we have right there? There's 3 minutes left. Okay, so Eric, you've got 3 minutes, please. Thanks.
Thank you. So first, Bruce and I have been friends for 25 years. I'm friends with his family and all of his children. So I'm an architect, but also I'm friends with them. So maybe it's a little different. And I met with Brandon Swanson in May, showing him 2D, 3D, everything about the whole project. So I think it can sound to the board as if like, chicken and egg, but I think I'd almost say there's some chicken and egg maybe issue with the whole process, but we're not going to deal with that in my time. I mean, just in terms of the tree permit or building permits. So, when Bruce and I started looking at this more, well, actually, so they've had 2 enormous trees go down. The tree that took out the garage hit part of the house. If it had moved over, if it had been like 10 degrees different, it would have taken out their kitchen and taken out Bruce and Patty if they were having breakfast. And so and I've dealt with, in my professional career, I've dealt with other situations where a town, or it's a different place, but I got told not to take down some trees, and 1 week later, trees would have killed 10 girls on a summer camp that I did, literally 1 week later. And when my sister was pinned under a tree for 8 hours at Girl Scout camp, and when a tornado ripped through it. So I had to have, I'm not traumatized to it, but in a way, trees have their own life. And I've owned 40 acres, 10 acres. I've done lots of tree work, and usually it's for rejuvenation. So I respect trees, and it's absolutely important for Carmel and everywhere in the United States to support trees, which I wrote in an email earlier. So we've gone through the process. So then I think when Bruce and I were preparing for this hearing, we actually realized, and maybe it's out of sequence because we didn't do a hazard permit, but no arborist came by and said that they're big trees that were ginormous, were going to fall down and possibly, take out their garage and possibly land on their house, right? So there's 2 trees within 15 months. And Bruce and Patty have lived in Carmel for 39 years. They've had other family members. They've been involved in Carmel for 39 years, and they have 14 grandchildren. So in preparing for this, we realized there's a safety issue regardless of the garage. And I don't want to say regardless, I appreciate Justin's comments, but the other thing I'd say from I've probably cut 5,000 trees in my career for just, I've had, a bizarre career. The canopy is unbalanced right now of the 2 oaks which is evident if you went to look at the site, and if I was there, and unfortunately I can't be there for some personal reasons, I wish I could be in person. The canopy's missing on where the garage is, and it's missing because that's where the pine was. Right, the pine from the neighbor's house. So if you look at the trees, we were talking about canopy with the previous applicant. It looks like there's 50% of the canopy never happened because it didn't grow because of the garage and because of the other trees. So they are leaning towards the house. So it's a total risk thing, actually, for all the members of the council. You could say, let's keep those coast oaks because, we think it's okay. But in this situation, there's no canopy opposite the bedroom in the house. So I don't know, I can't even know if I'm going to be comfortable going to sleep regardless of what you do if those trees aren't taken out, and Bruce and Patty were dear friends for 25 years, and those oaks fall down, and you know, any arborist, I respect all of the history and all the work that Justin's done. It's amazing, you know, the resume, that was like incredible. But in the end, the tree does what a tree wants to do. I mean, a tree, just like the 2 trees on Bruce's property. He hasn't yet lost any trees on the other properties he's had in Carmel in 39 years.
Okay, Eric.
So anyway, enough of my, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
So it's just I think it's a very serious issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bruce and Eric both. Is there anyone from the public, oh, first of all, sorry, from the commission, did anyone have any questions about what the applicants just shared? No? Okay, doesn't look like it. And then from the public, is there anyone that would like to make a comment regarding this particular application? Doesn't look like it, so I'm going to close that and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Who would like to lead this off?
I have a question for Justin, is that okay?
Absolutely.
We missed in the intro. It looks like in terms of tree density for this particular property, it meets the requirements for the size property if the 2 trees were removed, correct? It says right now there will still be 2 upper canopy trees, and with the removal of these 2 oaks, there will still be 7 lower canopy trees. Is that correct? I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right spot.
Correct.
So that there's, the density of trees on the property is.
I don't think so.
Meets our.
Yeah, it's the same
our
form.
objectives, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll ask this question, Justin. Maybe, I'm not sure if it'll be you or maybe Tom can answer. Is there a separate application for a permit for hazard?
No, I say hazard. I misspoke. It's not. There's for construction and not construction. So
Okay.
basically, it's a tree removal permit for construction is usually tied to a design study or a building permit, and then or people can just apply to have trees removed for any reason.
Got it. Okay. I was just unclear whether there was another one.
I didn't notice that.
Any additional discussion?
So, I mean, I just, again, given the fact that I used to walk that path and saw those trees that came down on that property, I mean, these people have been pretty traumatized by the large trees that have fallen on their property to date. And if they're concerned about those trees leaning and the fact that the canopy's been negated, I mean, I feel for them. I mean, 2 large trees falling on your property, crushing your garage, and also the other one potentially even coming close to the house and hitting it. I mean, I feel for them in that regard, and so I will take that into consideration in our decision.
I feel the same way, and I had, for a long time, I had a picture of the garage and the tree over the garage. It just absolutely smashed the garage, and it would do great damage to the house if it had been closer.
I was going to make a motion. I'll just
Well,
wait
then I will
you ask for the motion.
certainly I'll echo what other commissioners are saying. I mean, first of all, when I hear an applicant talk about a tree that could go into their bedroom, and fearing for that, and having had trees recently come down on their own property, and while looking at this property, it's absolutely lovely. There's quite a number of very mature, healthy, much healthier examples of our significant trees on their property. Right, I don't find that this request to be something that I would not want to support and meet. So,
Mr. Chair, may I ask Justin a quick question?
Oh, yeah.
Part of the recommendation was if the removal is approved, to plant 2 upper canopy trees.
Yes.
Have you talked to the applicant about this possibility? He says in your report that there appears to be enough room, and the tree density, there's a lot of trees, but not upper. Can you elaborate on your recommendation about planting upper canopy, and has the applicant been notified of this?
No, I haven't talked to them. I just put that in there when we were developing the staff report. That there are a lot of trees, but they're mostly some smaller, lower canopy trees, and one of the other trees is a large Monterey cypress that was hit by the pine, and that is living on limited time. It's not going to live forever. So to build up the upper canopy trees. That was a recommendation I thought.
So your recommendation continues to be to have them plant 2 upper canopy? That's your
Yes.
recommendation? Okay, thanks.
I actually think that's a good point of clarification in terms of the size of the property and what's typically recommended for in the density chart versus what does exist. Although again, the trees on their property quite mature, quite lovely. These two oaks are certainly not that example. But I'd be willing to put forward a motion. I'd be willing to. I didn't say I was doing it.
Let me ask one question
Yeah,
before
please.
you do.
Good.
What is the size of the lot?
It says it's, 7,179 square feet.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, I didn't see that.
So,
I would like
So
this.
you want me to put forward a
all right, here we go. I'm gonna do it. I'd like to put forward a motion to approve the removal of the 2 coast live oak trees with the requirement of the replanting of 2 upper canopy trees at the applicant's expense.
I second it.
There you go.
Yvette?
Commissioner Burling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brzezowski,
Yes.
Chair Myers,
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers.
Yes.
Thank you, the motion is passed.
Okay, thanks. We can bring Commissioner Mickey back in.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see, I'll wait for both to return. Hi, welcome back. Did you get some coffee? We only have 100 more pages. All right, this is the last of our public hearings. It's the approval or denial of the removal of 1 Monterey pine tree at Camino Real 2 northwest of 13th Avenue. And who's taking that?
Over to Tom.
Okay, Tom.
Hello again, thank you. For this agenda item, there was a permit submitted. It is attachment 1. We'll get it up on the screen in just a moment. That was submitted on behalf of property owner Steve Jones to remove a Monterey pine on the private property due to concerns that the tree is damaging the adjacent building. There was an arborist report also submitted as part of this application by an ISA certified arborist, Frank Ono, who found that the Monterey pine was in good health. The report notes that the radial growth of the tree's root collar and root plate appear to be causing structural damage to the adjacent home, to the adjacent structure. He had noted specifically windows and some damage to the north wall. Just as a bit of a sidebar, if it's not obvious from the name that I had just mentioned, there is a familial connection between the arborist who wrote the report and our city forester, as Director Bob Harari had mentioned earlier. Our director did get a chance to review both of the assessments of these, their objective assessments, and determined that there was no conflict of interest there. And moving on to our city forester's assessment of this tree, he also found it to be healthy and in good condition. Based on the tree's relative good health, he recommends that the pine be approved for removal only if there are no reasonable long-term architectural or engineering remedies for this situation. But the damage does speak for itself. Therefore, so long as there are no reasonable engineering remedies, the forester recommends the approval of this tree at the applicant's expense. And also as part of that recommendation, should the removal be approved, require the replanting of up to 5 upper canopy trees at the applicant's expense. Lastly, I just wanted to draw our attention, in the actual body of the report, there is the tree density chart for properties of 8,000 square feet that wanted to draw to your attention regarding the possible planting of new upper canopy trees, which there does appear to be adequate space for. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I piggyback off of the comments of the staff report? Just a couple little things.
Please.
We did have in the staff report, and as Mr. Ford mentioned, the commission has the option to request the applicant to have an architect or an engineer do further assessment. That's an option. However, we do, like Mr. Ford said, we believe the damage speaks for itself. Also, if the commission recalls, there has been precedent on cases like this. There's been similar cases where trees have clearly made damage to homes that the commission has authorized the removal in the past. So there's, this is not precedent setting. And then in addition, I wanted to emphasize the opportunity to replant up to 5 new upper canopy trees, which appears to be more needed on the lot than the one that's causing damage. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in with the report. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. From the commission, was there any questions about the material that was presented to us?
First of all, do we know if this is a historic house? It would be likely to be.
No.
I don't believe so, and because there was no design study either, so I don't believe that we know.
No.
We don't know.
There was no, what did you say?
The design study.
There was no what?
Design study,
Design study.
usually that pops up during the design study, but it's not.
So the city has a list of recognized historic resources.
That's right.
And up through 2022, this house is not listed on.
Oh, really? Okay.
That was my first
I'm
question as well,
surprised, yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the material presented? No? Is the applicant present? Are you speaking on behalf of the applicant, or you are the applicant? No, you're not? Okay. Okay.
I'm the father-in-law.
You're the father-in-law? Would you
That's okay.
care to make a statement in support of denial of this application, or no? No one online is here for this application? Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would care to make a comment about this application? Please, if you'd like to come forward then. Thank you, from the chambers. And it's, we have 3 minutes, and I'll have a nice timer right over here just to be able to see.
Commissioner, staff, my name is Donna Pribble, and I live at 12th and Carmelo. I've lived in the area, that specific area, for the last 20 years, and I walk past the property. It's just usually on one of my routes. I would like you to consider denying the permit. It's a healthy, mature tree. It was probably there prior to the house being built. And, you know, the Monterey pines, this is very important. They're very important to our community, and I hate to see us to remove a healthy tree. This has been an ongoing issue for years, and it's not a new issue. That the foundation has been going for, 20, 30 years. So I just think that my whole request is, can we preserve it, because it is a Monterey pine, and we're losing so many of them in the community.
To heck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from chambers with public comment? Is there anyone online, Yvette? That doesn't look like it. And okay. And yes, Commissioner McKee, you okay? Okay. Well, then I'll go ahead and bring it back and close it for commission discussions. Anyone want to lead it off?
It seems to me that they've, well, I think we can hear it. That they've done all they can to protect the house. There was the big gouge in the roof part, and if it's right up against the house. You know, we did ask somebody to check how expensive it would be to put their house back together. You remember that? And the figure came out about $100,000. That was just a different house, and this is a much older house. I'm not sure that the pine was there before. This is a really old house. And to me, I wouldn't even recommend planting 3 more or 4 more, because she'd only have 1 on her property. There are 2 pines right out on the city property that are the young pines that they've put in. But to me, this is a wonderful old house with a wonderful history of 2 really important people to Carmel. And so it seems very reasonable to me to take the tree down.
Anyone? Other comments from the commission as we discuss this?
I would just say, I think, you know, when our residents experience catastrophic loss from trees like we did in a former application, or damage to their home from a tree, right? Those are the importance of preserving the home becomes really important and something that we should consider.
Just have a question.
Yes.
Do you know the approximate age of this tree? I might have missed that, I'm sorry, but.
It's old. I'd say 80 to 100.
Okay.
Upper limit of Monterey pines, but really healthy for its age.
Okay, thank you.
The only thing I'll say, because I have a fairly good experience with Monterey pines, is, I mean, I think given the storm damage and storm winds that we incurred over this last winter, if that's, you know, a change that we're going to be experiencing, and those Monterey pines tend to sway in the stiffer winds that we're getting, that tree has absolutely no room in any way, shape, or form to move around that building. And so I think it needs to go, because I think it could damage the property and the people that are in it, given its proximity to the house, unfortunately.
Yeah, I certainly respect the comment from Donna about the age and the contribution in the neighborhood of these trees. And the other side of it is, at some point, we cycle through the lives of these trees. Right. And knowing that it's damaging the house, you can see it physically, and it's apparent that the homeowner is, or the applicant anyway, I imagine is the homeowner, is intending to restore the house. I imagine they're willing to have an upper canopy tree replaced. Personally, I don't know why they would need to have 5. One of the things I actually really enjoyed about the property was I felt like I was in a little special, little foresty place just walking around it already. And I didn't, you know, I should have read the application a little more clearly, just to have thought through where could 5 upper canopies go. But certainly 1 would, I think, be a reasonable thing. There's 16 trees on this property, which, I mean, yeah, it's 8,000 square feet. So I don't know. If there's not any other, Tamara, did you have anything else? I know you just said no. I would go forward with the approval of the removal of this Monterey pine at the applicant's expense, and require 1 upper canopy replacement at their expense.
I say that.
Commissioner Burling?
Yes.
Commissioner Brzezowski?
Yes.
Commissioner Mickey?
Yes.
Chair Myers?
Yes.
Commissioner Sowers?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion is passed.
Okay, well, 5 o'clock. We did pretty well with that. Let's see. Now we'll step into our orders of business. Orders of business are agenda items that require city council, board, or commission discussion, debate, direction to staff, and/or action. And the first order of business is we're going to receive a presentation from the Integral Corp. Haro Hasunich and Associates /EMC Planning Group regarding the results of the shoreline and beach change analysis task 2, which is part of the coastal engineering study.
Thank you, Chair Myers and commissioners. I'd like to just introduce the group. Sure, I said thank you, Chair Myers and commissioners. This afternoon we will have 3 consultants from the Integral Group do the presentation on the shoreline and beach change analysis, which is like you said, task 2 of the coastal engineering study. The presentation will be from Dr. David Ravel and Matt Jameson and also Ashley Ellison, and they are online. Thank you.
Joel, can you pull up the Zoom? And I believe Dr. Ravel has a PowerPoint that he'll share his screen. There we go.
Okay, hopefully everybody can see that. Good afternoon, evening now, I suppose, commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to give you guys an update on the progress of the coastal engineering assessment. This is, in the past, we have presented. Are you seeing, which screen is everybody seeing? Are you seeing the presentation or the note screen?
The notes, the double screen.
Okay, 1 second. Okay.
There we go. Yep.
Okay, great. This is, the project's been going for a while. I saw that a lot of you were able to go on the site visit a couple weeks ago to sort of prioritize some of the findings from our task 1 coastal armory and condition assessment. And we're here today to talk about the seasonal and long-term beach and shoreline change analysis results. We're going to provide an overview of the results with my colleagues here, Matt and Ashley. I believe Anastasia from EMC Planning, who's working on more of the policy stuff as part of the project, maybe in person in the audience too.
Yes.
So I want to, we're going to talk about the results of task 2, which was focused on understanding the seasonal and long-term beach and shoreline changes over time. And this is sort of fits in the project of trying to understand how the beach and the sand compartment around Carmel works, both seasonally and over a longer period of time, so that we can then start to look into the future of how those changes may be affected by sea level rise, and then ultimately what are the options for the city to adapt. So this is just this sort of long-term piece. So the first thing I want to point out is, we have the point at Pebble Beach to the north of the city beach, and then the south end of Carmel Beach is really a sand compartment where sand erodes in the winter and then kind of accretes in the spring into summer in a seasonal cycle. And for the most part, sand stays in that compartment. And so our analysis looked a little to the north of Carmel City Beach so that we could understand the physical processes. In the winter time, northwest swells sort of dominate, medium periods, higher wave heights really start to cause a lot of erosion, particularly at the south end, where it's more exposed to the wave direction. The biggest changes come from extreme sort of west swells. The January 5th and 6th event this year, it was a good example of one of those really long period high wave swells that come kind of straight in and affect more of the entire beach. In the spring, conditions shift. The waves die down. We get a lot more short period wind waves, and the shorter periods allow the waves to kind of bend into the bay a little more. And we also start to get south swells, which bring long period waves with smaller wave heights. And those combination help to accrete the beach back. When the erosion happens, the sand is taken from the dry sand beach that everybody loves, to build their sand castles and walk their dogs, and then into sort of offshore sandbars. And that's why everybody loves to go surfing in the spring down there. So I'm not going to go into all the details of all of the data that we use, but just want to summarize. We've looked at a lot of data. We've used wave buoys offshore, forecasted waves from USGS that came out of their Cosmos model. We have looked at almost a 40-year stack of satellite images that are taken about monthly to learn about the seasonal dynamics. We've looked at 8 different topographic flights that have been flown that allow us to look at the differences between each of those flights and understand how the volumes of the sand behave. We've looked at historic air photos dating back to the 1940s, reports and beach surveys from some of the first ever recorded on the West Coast following World War II. They used to do it with a amphibious duck that was sort of used in D-Day. And then we've also looked at a lot of the engineering reports and things and photos. One ask I will say, because I know a lot of you spend a lot of time and have lived in Carmel for a long time, if you have old historic photos of when the waves were breaking or the sand was really stripped out, or videos, those are really helpful for us to understand those dynamics, and as we go forward with modeling, sort of helping to make sure that we're doing the modeling appropriately. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt here to talk about the beach character. Matt?
Yeah, hey there. Hope you can all hear me. So I'm going to give you a just brief description of the character along Carmel Beach. This will serve as a bit of a foundation for the rest of this discussion here. So what the image you're seeing here on the top is Carmel Beach. That's the city of Carmel's beach. And there's a diagram as if you're looking straight at, sort of head on the bluffs here. And on green, the top area here, yeah, that's a geological formation area that represents sort of the terrace deposits and dune sands. So this is sort of softer material. It can be weathered quite easily by erosion. And then underneath that, in that darker gray, so that is sort of the more resistant sandstone and armoring that the city has. And then below that would be the beach. You can see there's varying heights, and the mean, so that's sort of the average among those digital elevation models or topographic surveys that David just mentioned. That's what that line is there. So the real takeaway here is that in the sort of southern section, you have sort of a higher area between that contact between the sandstone and the terrace. So that's something to note, sort of around 11th Avenue in the south, and then also in the north. And then in that sort of central sort of dune-backed area, there is sandstone underlying that, but we don't know necessarily what that contact elevation would be. So this is another part of this diagram here, and this shows 2 things. There's a lot of armoring in the city beach. As you're aware, about 68% of the shoreline is armored, but half of that is sea walls, half of that is riprap revetments. Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Yep, and you can see too that on the below that too is the widths of the beach, and there is a little bit of a correspondence between areas that are armored and areas that have a higher variability in beach widths, and that width is represented by percentiles here. But generally, you can see these areas in the south, sort of around 12th Ave and south, have pretty high widths, whereas an area around the dunes, which would be sort of the Del Mar dunes and North dunes, much less variability there. So there's much more stable parts of the beach. And finally, I'll just say that we're going to be referring to a lot of different areas in the city by these various sections. Section 1 we're calling sort of South Carmel Beach, that's sort of south of 8th Ave. The central Carmel Beach, that's sort of the Del Mar Dunes area. North Dunes, as we know where the volleyball courts are. And then section 4 is sort of the North Carmel Beach area that's sort of going up to Pescadero Canyon. And then further north than that is the Pebble Beach, which isn't shown here. And here you go, here's all the diagram put together. This is going to be in the report. There's a lot to take in. So I'll leave it for you to check out in the report.
Thank you, Matt. So we're going to next talk sort of about the seasonal changes that have been observed. This is a little animation of the shoreline position over starting in 1984 on approximately about a monthly basis. This sort of forms the basis for some of our seasonal understanding. When we look at all of that data, and Ashley did a really nice job digging through over 1,100 images, we can kind of look again, here's those same areas of the city beach that Matt was talking about. Well, what becomes most apparent, there's a lot of really cool nuances, but the highlights are really, there's kind of two major recurring erosion hotspots. One here kind of south of the offshore rock that's visible, and then north there's a head wall and a culvert that drains out on the beach just south of Pescadero Canyon. And then farther to the south, again, close to around 11th Avenue and this area. And one of the key takeaways from this information is that these patterns of erosion hotspots really become important to understand in the future when we start thinking about what are we going to do to reduce the erosion and start to really get into the adaptation planning phases. So we took all of those 1,100 images and sort of took a minimum and a maximum. Sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong screen, so you guys can't see. So the minimum and the maximum beach widths, and then some others, an average beach width, and then some statistical representation of beach widths over time, and then laid them over all of these various historic imagery. And there's a lot, again, here that will be more discussion on in the report. But the take home here is that in an area that's constantly eroding, you would expect that the widest beaches were in the 1940s or the earlier years. In many of the cases along the beach, some of the widest beaches are in more present day conditions, 2016. So this is really good news and is a strong indicator that the sediment budget or the amount of sand in the sand compartment is pretty stable. And so that's a good sign for the persistence of a nice sandy beach in this area, depending upon what adaptation strategies we dig into. So I'm going to turn it over to Ashley to talk a little bit about the seasonal beach width changes.
So another way we can look at the data is by averaging over a month, and then we're able to see that seasonal variability that we were talking about in this graph. So in this graph, this x-axis are each of the months, and then it's plotting, the beach width is plotted over time. And each of the sections is colored in different colors here. So one of the things you can see is that the lines kind of have different curves, right? So that just means that the beach changes differently throughout like the year, right? So some sections of the beach will erode a lot and recover a lot, and some sections of the beach will be more stable. So all of the beach sections become the most eroded in February, right? So that's after those winter storms. And then they start recovering through the spring to reach a maximum beach width. So this is your fun beach days happening in the late summer, so August and September. I just want to point out two sections to you guys. The one that sees the most change throughout the year, and that's this blue line here. That's South Beach, and it also generally has the narrowest beach width. So you can see the numbers are smallest for South Beach, and it erodes the most and it grows the most throughout the year. And then the most stable section of the beach is Central Beach, and that's this orange line. And it just doesn't have as much of that range that you'd see in South Beach. And that section of the beach is backed by dunes. So we think maybe that sand dunes are actually helping to keep that area fed.
Thank you, Ashley. And so then we started to look at some of the big storms that we know and where we have really good data. So 1997 and 1998 El Nino were really big events. There was a really kind of cutting edge data collection effort right before this storm season, right after. So we have some good understanding, and so we can have elevation from both before and after, and we can do subtractions in those surfaces to see how much sand volume and where the volumes changed. And so this map is a bit of a heat map with the hotter colors indicating erosion, where in the very far southern part, we saw measured up to 14 feet in vertical sand loss in the beach. While at the far north end, near Pebble Beach or North Beach and North Dunes, there was actually some minor accretion, meaning that the beach really didn't lose a lot of volume. We also measured that in that extreme storm season, about 300,000 cubic yards